Hello, today is Friday, July 24th, 2020. I'm Joe Schmidt from TC2, and this is Staying Connected. On today's podcast, I'm joined by Jack Deal, one of TC2's managing directors, and Mark Sheard, TC2's UK managing director. And we're going to talk about an article that Jack and Mark recently published. The article looks at whether enterprises should still be using legacy time division multiplexing or TDM and what the alternatives are if they decide to decommission the service. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me. So, Mark, why did you and Jack write this article?
Thanks for the introduction, Joe. So, question. Do you know anyone who was still using Windows 7 at the beginning of 2020? If so, and you and probably they couldn't find a better example of what software end of support means. And that's the essence of why we wrote the article. Technology innovation has relentlessly produced better, faster, and cheaper attributes in whatever it touches. I think we've all seen that, whether it's the latest laptop, smartphone, or improvement in software code or applications. Each innovation pushes the previous generation's technology towards obsolescence. And although it's sometimes portrayed as the conservative, slow-to-change stepchild of the technology world, the same principle actually applies to technology innovations in the telecoms network transport services world. As always is the case, there's a degree of backward compatibility when these technology innovations come forward, and this will extend the time period for transitioning to the new technology. So while TDM transport can be used with, say, for example, the latest innovations in software-defined networking, what's happening now is that the day of reckoning has actually arrived for customers attempting to keep these TDM services, these legacy services in place. So for these legacy services, what's happened is that a gradually closing window over the last couple of years, a window of opportunity to reduce unit costs, i.e. where what we're seeing now is reductions are getting progressively harder and harder to achieve. That window and challenge has now actually transformed into the time-honored carrier and supplier tradition of forced carrier migrations by actually making those TDM services, those legacy services, no longer something they want to support, and thereby making them economically unattractive. And in fact, in some cases, just not making them available. In other words, they're now imposing price increases on those services whose prices have actually been declining year over year for the last couple of decades.
That's right, Mark. And Joe, this is a today problem, not a tomorrow problem, as we see the landscape for the continued use of TDM-based networking becoming increasingly challenging. Even in fully competitive sourcing events, RFPs and similar, we see some challenging aspects, including things like grandfathering. So retirement comes to us all eventually, but grandfathering allows you to keep the service going, but it removes eligibility for new orders for some MPLS TDM port speeds, for example, which can be a significant constraint. For new deals or deals that you're continuing, we see the pricing being contingent on accepting other supplier-imposed conditions, whether that be incremental new business or decommissioning the TDM access circuits you have in place by a specific date. Worst of all, we've seen some shocking price increases ranging from as much as 30% to 100% for both MPLS ports and the related access circuits. If the dollars aren't compelling, there's another wrinkle. It's not just about enterprise network costs. Indeed, alongside the cost increases, more and more enterprises realize that TDM is just not a sensible way to service the ongoing perpetual demand for more and more data and shifts to cloud-based applications. Many legacy business applications have run their course, and new solutions need greater, faster, better connectivity. Importantly, other enterprises are also recognizing that even if they can scrape by on constrained bandwidth, and that limited bandwidth by itself has possibly inhibited the rollout of new business applications, they could obtain such bandwidth more cheaply outside an MPLS solution.
So, Mark, what now?
Thanks, Joe. That was really the purpose of the article, actually, to move into that next step. The first thing you need to do is to develop a plan to move off TDM circuits, and ideally off a lower speed MPLS as well. And this should be very soon, if not now. Now, I'm not trying to sound overly dramatic or insistent, but it's actually not the time, as Jack mentioned, to wait and see. That time has passed. At some point, you now need to develop an effective transformation strategy. And from our perspective, the best way to start is with what we call a size of the prize assessment of your current state network relative to your future state network options or requirements. And this assessment should intelligently model the different technologies and real pricing. So from deals that are out there, which is something we have access to, deals that are in the market for those various options that you want to potentially move to. And to do this, you must use real-time deal-based market data and the sort of expertise that you can apply that into the enterprise network solutions. And to maximize the value of this exercise, you must think beyond simply benchmarking estimated bandwidth for the future and include such things as a review of the current contractual positions for constraints they might impose on what you're trying to achieve, a consideration of the future technology options and what it will take to deliver those and who's best is able to deliver those to the various providers. And then look at developing a credible sourcing strategy to get from your current point A to your future state point B or point C or point D, whatever the future state alternatives are that you want to consider as part of your go forward strategy.
As advisors in the space, we continue to see huge benefit for every enterprise developing an internet-first strategy based around consideration of several aspects, including, firstly, how to deploy hybrid or SD networking to allow greater use of more economical network transport options, such as broadband. Beyond just cost reduction or cost avoidance, how edge solution transformation can bring benefits by introducing advanced technology capabilities, such as increasing the efficiency and ease of your network reconfigurations, better analytics, achieving performance gains within the network, etc., and enhanced flexibility in the way enterprises contract for access services. The latter concept we recently addressed in a podcast on implementing a supplier portfolio strategy for internet transport. Thirdly, how to maximize cost reduction or cost avoidance opportunity. Despite the other benefits, this still remains a leading factor in any assessment, and we don't really see that changing anytime soon. If SD-WAN is definitely in your future network strategy, how to move the initiative forward in ways that don't result in paralysis by analysis, a lack of clear direction, a crippling fear of change, overcomplication of the steps required, or derailing introspection from engineers or management about how difficult it all might be. And then lastly, how to identify those elements that don't need to change at all. For example, there may be other elements of your MPLS network that can stay in place, at least for now.
Okay, thank you, Jack, and thank you as well, Mark. Now, as Mark and Jack have just made abundantly clear, an effective strategy so you can develop an executable, credible plan will always help you avoid getting caught short. If you don't have an effective strategy or plan to move your network away from TDM, you will get caught short sooner than you think. As the TDM acronym declares, it is time to decommission and move. Now, if you'd like to talk about your company's TDM plans or you have other ICT lifecycle needs, you can contact Mark, Jack, me, or any of our LB3 and TC2 colleagues by giving us a call or dropping us an email. You can also stay current by checking out our websites, following us on LinkedIn, or by subscribing to our Staying Connected podcasts.